we were talking about the decrease in demand. Okay, so that one, it happens when at the same price, the quantity that we want to buy falls. Okay, so here these are some of the possible causes when your income decreases. I'm sure you can see there's an asterisk here. So
Yes.
come and see here. We are assuming that the bottled water is a normal good. So we have a decrease in demand when there's what? A decrease in income. But remember, if bottled water was to be an inferior good, it wouldn't have been like that. Okay, but that one should rather cause an increase in demand. So these are some of the possible causes of a decrease. Sounds like the number of buyers, okay, a decrease in the number of buyers. That will cause a decrease in demand. So that's for decrease in demand. Therefore, an increase in demand at the same price, the quantity that we desire to buy what will actually increase. And these are some of the possible causes. An increase in the number of buyers, an increase in income, assuming the good is a normal good. So actually, this is the difference between change in demand and change in quantity demanded. Any question before we move on to supply?
No.
All right, so now let's look at the quantity supplied. Now, this one is the amount of a good, a service, or a resource that people are willing and able to sell during a specific period at a specific price. So this one too should be backed by willingness and ability to sell. So this one we are talking about sellers. So the quantity that they wish to offer for sale, that's what we call the quantity supplied. Okay, that's the quantity supplied. Now, what about the law? Remember, we looked at the law of demand, so we have to look at the law of supply as well. Now, other things being the same, ceteris paribus, for supply at a higher price, we tend to actually offer more for sale. Whenever there's an increase in price, because we want to get more revenue, we rather sell more. It wasn't like that on the demand. For consumers, if there's an increase in price, we rather buy less. But for sellers, whenever there's an increase in price, they rather sell more. Okay. And then the other side, when price falls, the quantity that they offer for sale actually what decreases. So here, there's a positive relationship between the quantity that the sellers are offering for sale and the price of the good. But then under demand, there was an inverse relationship. But here, we have a positive one. When price goes up, okay, supply will go up. When price falls, supply is going to fall. Okay. So here, price and the quantity move together. Now, we look at supply schedule and curve, just like demand. Okay, so basically, we want to talk about the supply. We are talking about the relationship between the quantity that the sellers are willing and able to offer for sale. Okay, and then the price of what? Of the good, when all other factors affecting supply are held constant. So when we hold all the other, we'll look at those factors too. When we hold all those factors affecting supply constant, and we only look at the relationship between price and then the quantity they offer for sale, that relationship is what we call supply of a commodity. Okay, so this one too can be represented by a schedule and a curve. So we know already the schedule is just the listing of the relationship, okay, the tabular representation of the relationship between supply and then the price. And then the graph or the curve is going to be the graphical representation of this relationship. So let's look at an example. So the left one is for the schedule, and then this is for the curve. Okay, so at point A, price is 2. What is the quantity that they are offering for sale? So 3,000 bottles per day. That's what we have here, point A. Point B, price came to 1.5. They are offering 2,000. Point C, price came to 1. They are offering 1,000. And then D, when price came to 0.5, they are offering nothing at all. So a line through these points is what we call the supply curve. Okay, so you see that this one slopes upwards, showing the positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. Then we have individual supply and then the market one, just like the demand. Now, we are dealing with a competitive market, so we have a lot of sellers. So the quantity that each individual is offering for sale is individual supply. But then when we sum them up, we get our market supply. So the market supply is just the sum of the supplies of all the sellers in the market. Okay. Graphically, that one too is the horizontal summation of the individual supply curves. So we sum the supply curves up horizontally, and then we get our market supply curve. So just like we did for Tina and then Tim, this for Agua and then Prima. Okay, so this is supply curve for Agua, this is the supply curve for Prima, and then these are their schedules. Okay, so when you go to the market, the first price was 2. So when price is 2, you combine the quantity for both Aqua and then Prima. So that would be what? It's 7, right? When we add this, when we add 3 and then 4, we get 7. So when price is 2, the market supply was 7. Then you come to when price is 1.5. You add 2, and then this we have what? 5. So we just do it for all the other points. Then a line drawn through those points will give you the market supply curve. Okay, that gives you the market supply curve. All right. Then we have changes in supply. Okay, so this one too, it happens when there's a change in the quantity that the sellers wish to offer for sale. Okay, and this is as a result of changes in the other factors affecting the supply of that good, apart from the price of that good. So the price is held constant, but then the other factors affecting supply are changing. So when they change, definitely there will be changes in the quantity that they wish to offer for sale. Okay, but then if there's a change in quantity that they want to offer for sale because of a change in price of that commodity, that one is called a change in quantity supplied. Okay, but then a change in supply, price is held constant, but then the other factors affecting supply changes. So whenever you have a change in supply, it means we need to draw a new supply schedule and then a new supply curve. Okay, a new supply curve. So let's look at this. Now, initially, this is supply curve. Okay, at the same price hasn't changed, but then the sellers wish to reduce the quantity that they offer for sale. So the supply curve will shift leftwards. So it will shift from S0 to S1. This is what we call a decrease in supply. Okay, and then for an increase at the same price, they wish to what? Sell more. They want to sell more. So the price, the supply curve shifts to the right. Is that okay? It shifts to the right. Okay. All right. Now let's look at the factors affecting supply. Okay, factors affecting the supply of a commodity. Now we can talk. Now we know of price. Definitely, the price of the commodity will affect the supply. But then, price of related goods, price of resources, and other inputs that are used in producing that particular good, expected future prices, number of sellers, and their productivity. Okay, and productivity. So we'll take them one after the other, as we did for the demand. So first, let's look at price of related goods. Now, here too, we have competitive supply and then joint supply. Now, two goods are said to be in competitive supply if we can either produce this one or produce that one. In other words, the resources that are used to produce one can be used to produce the other. An example, you have a piece of land. You can use that land to either produce maize or millet. So the more maize you want to produce, the lesser millet you can produce. So we say that those two goods are in competitive for supply. They are competitively supplied. Okay. So definitely, if there's a change in the price of maize, it will definitely affect the supply of millet. Are we together?
Yes.
So just assuming that there's an increase in the price of maize. Now for sellers, whenever there's an increase in the price of what do? They want to sell more. So if there's an increase in the price of maize, they rather produce more maize, sell more maize and get more money. And as they are producing more maize, the supply of millet will fall. So for supply, competitive supply, the substitutes, whenever there is an increase in the price of a substitute, there will be a reduction in the supply of the other good. Okay, so the competitive one is called their substitutes in production. So this is an example they gave: a truck and then an SUV. The resources you are using to produce a truck, you use the same to produce an SUV. So the more of one you produce, the less of the other. So assuming there's an increase in the price of truck, you rather produce more truck and produce what? Less SUVs. So what is happening here? The supply of a good will increase if the price of its substitute falls. Okay, so if there's a fall in the price of truck, we won't produce truck, we'll reduce the quantity of trucks produced. They will produce more SUVs, so it will increase when the price of truck falls. On the other hand, if the price of truck should increase, then the supply of SUVs will what? Will fall. The supply of SUVs will fall. Are we together?
Yes.
All right. Then in production too, we have joint to and complementary production or supply. Okay. Now this one too, it means that when you are producing one, you automatically produce the other. When you are producing beef, definitely you get height. If you are producing palm oil, definitely you produce palm kernels. So whether intentionally or unintentionally, automatically the production of one will increase the production of the other. So let's take the palm oil and then the palm kernel. Assuming there's an increase in the price of palm oil, we have to produce more palm oil, right? And as a result, we automatically produce more palm kernels. So an increase in the price of one will cause an increase in the supply of the other. And then a decrease in the price of palm oil will reduce its production. And as a result, the production of palm kernel too will reduce. So you see how it works. Okay, so the supply of a good will increase if the price of its complement in production rises, and vice versa. It falls when the price of the complement in production falls. Okay, so this is how price of related goods affects supply. Prices of resources and other inputs. Now we use the resources and inputs to produce the good. Okay, and they add up to cost of production. So if those prices are high, if the price of the resources and inputs are high, the cost of production will be high. We cannot produce more. We produce less, and as a result, we can only supply fewer quantities. So there's an inverse relationship between supply and the price of inputs. When price of inputs are high, we tend to supply less, and vice versa. Okay, and vice versa. Expected future prices. If you go to the fuel industry, you can go there, they will be selling the fuel for people. As soon as they hear there's going to be an increase, they will tell you that there's no fuel. There's no fuel, so go. Later, then you come. But then there will be fuel. Why? It's because of the effect of expected future prices. When they expect that prices are going to increase in the future, they will hoard. They will hoard their things. So supply will be very low now. You understand? But then if they expect a fall in price in the future, they will tend to sell whatever they have now. So supply tends to be high currently. Okay. So the future expectation of prices too affects the supply of a commodity. Okay. Number of sellers, of course, the more the people that are producing and selling, the higher the quantity that will be in the market. Okay, and then vice versa. And productivity is output per unit of input. So if the resources you are using, the tools you are using, if you have a very high productivity, okay, then you tend to produce more. For example, there's an increase in the level of technology that increases your productivity, so you can produce more and offer more for sale. Okay, so higher productivity means higher supply. Lower productivity means lower supply. Like this Kente example I was using the other time. Look at Ghana. I mean, the productivity is low, so just offer few jars of Kente for sale. But then if we were to use machines for high productivity, we can produce more and then we offer more for sale. Okay, so productivity can also affect the supply of a commodity. All right. Then we have change in quantity supplied and then change in supply as well. I think I've spoken about this. For change in quantity supplied, it happens when there's a change in price, holding the other factors affecting supply constant. But then change in supply, we rather hold price constant, and then there are changes in the other factors affecting supply. So we'll have change in quantity supplied when there's a change in the quantity of the good that the sellers wish to offer for sale as a result of a change in price of that good. So that's a change in quantity supplied. But then for change in supply, they change the quantity they want to offer for sale as a result of changes in the other factors affecting supply other than the price of that good. Okay, so it's just like the demand. Prices will be held constant under the change in supply, and then prices will vary and the other factors held constant under change in quantity supplied. So let's look at this supply curve S0. So initially this is where we were. So at this price we were buying this quantity. Now assuming price falls, when price falls, we will reduce the quantity that we buy. We are moving along the supply curve. We call this a decrease in quantity demanded. So you see that the quantity has reduced as a result of a fall in price. But then if price should increase, if price should increase, then we should have an increase in what? The quantity that they wish to offer for. So this one, we are moving along the supply curve. So we'll call it an increase in quantity supplied. Okay, an increase in quantity supplied. And then let's look at a decrease in supply. Here, there's no change in price. Price hasn't changed, but then they want to offer less for sale. And these are some of the possible causes. The price of a substitute in production rises. There's an increase in the input prices. Okay, the price of a good is expected to rise. So we expect that in the near future, price will go up. So we reduce the quantity we sell now. So this is what we call a decrease in supply. Here we draw a new supply schedule, and as a result, we get a new supply curve. So moving from S0 to S1 is a decrease in supply. Then when we move from S0 to S2, we are talking about an increase in supply. So here we want to offer more for sale at the same price. And these are some of the possible causes of an increase in supply. For example, an increase in productivity. So now at the same price, we're able to produce more. So we're able to offer more for sale. Okay. So this is the difference between change in supply and change in quantity. Any question?
Nope.
All right, let's go to market equilibrium. So now we combine both demand and supply of commodity. So when do we have a market equilibrium? Equilibrium means that we are in a state where there's no tendency for change. Okay, we are just resting at that state. So in the market, when do we have equilibrium? We have equilibrium when the quantity demanded is exactly the same as the quantity supplied. So the quantity that the sellers are wishing to offer for sale is exactly the same as the quantity that the consumers are wishing to buy. So at that point, we have market equilibrium. Okay, we have market equilibrium. So at that market equilibrium, we have something called the equilibrium price. That's the price at which the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied. So if at the price of 5, the quantity that consumers are buying is exactly the same as the quantity that sellers are offering for sale, then that price of 5 is called what? The equilibrium price. Is that okay?
Okay.
Then we have equilibrium quantity. That's a quantity that the good is being traded at that particular equilibrium price. So if the equilibrium price is 5 and we are buying 10, we are selling 10, the 10 there is the equilibrium quantity. Okay, the 10 there is the equilibrium quantity. All right, so let's look at this. Graphically, this is the equilibrium point where supply and demand intersect. So here the equilibrium price is what? 10. The equilibrium quantity is what? 8. The equilibrium price is 1. The equilibrium quantity is what? 10. Okay, so where the two curves intersect, that is where we get the equilibrium point. So this is the market equilibrium. Okay. All right, let's look at prices. Prices as markets automatic regulators. Okay, let's look at the law of market forces. The law of market forces. Whenever there's a shortage, we will see the equilibrium price increasing. When do we say there's a shortage? When quantity demanded is more than quantity supplied. When consumers want to buy more than what is being offered for sale in the market, that will cause an upward pressure on the price. It will put an upward pressure on prices. We want to buy more, but then we are not getting some. So the sellers will be forced to increase price. Okay. And then whenever there's a surplus, price will fall. When do we have a surplus? When quantity supplied is more than quantity was demanded. They are offering more than what we want to buy. The sellers are offering more than what we want to buy. So what do they have to do? They have to reduce prices so that we buy it for them. You have to reduce prices so that we buy it for them. So whenever we have a shortage, we should expect an upward movement in price. But whenever we have a surplus, we should expect a downward movement in price. Okay. So let's use a diagram to explain this. Remember, the equilibrium was 1, right? Equilibrium price was 1, and then the quantity was at 10. Now, when the price is 1.5, what do we see here? The quantity supplied is going to be 11, but quantity demanded is 9. Okay, they are doing what? They've put more for sale than what we need. Okay, so there's going to be what? A surplus of two bottles of water if it's in millions. In millions. So 11 minus 9 is going to be the surplus here. The quantity supplied over quantity demanded. So what is going to happen? There's going to be what? A downward pressure on price. Price will keep on falling until we get back to the equilibrium. That's what we are calling the price automatic regulator. Equilibrium point, well, we can have a disequilibrium, but then we'll always come back to the equilibrium point. So when it happens that there's a surplus, price will keep on falling until equilibrium is restored. Okay, until equilibrium is restored. Now, just assuming that the price falls from, let's say, 1.5 to, let's say, 1.2. Here we still have a surplus because supply will still be more than demand. If price falls to, let's say, 1.1, we will still have a surplus here. Supply will still be what? More than demand. So the price will keep on falling until we get to 1. And at 1, quantity demanded is exactly the same as what? Quantity supplied. So there will be no tendency for change again. Okay, there will be no tendency for change. Let's look at the other side when there's a shortage. So we know the equilibrium price was 1. Now, at a price of 0.75, quantity demanded is 11. Quantity supplied is 9. There's a shortage of what? 2. So what do we do now? Prices will keep on moving up. They will keep on moving up until they get to 1. And then at that point, equilibrium has been restored. So there will be no tendency to move again. So whenever there's a shortage, prices will move up. Whenever there's a surplus, we should expect price to fall. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Predicting price changes. There are 3 questions we always have to ask and answer. Whenever there's a change in, there's an incentive in the market, there's changes in incentives, maybe something has happened, an event has occurred. How do we predict changes in price? Okay, so we have to ask ourselves these questions and then answer them. By doing that, we are able to predict the effect of that event on prices. First question, does the event change demand or supply? We need to know, is the event affecting the demand or is affecting the supply? We have to do that. And then we also need to know, is it causing the demand or the supply curve to shift to the left or shift to the right? Is it causing an increase in demand, a decrease in demand, or an increase in supply or a decrease in supply? We also need to answer this. And then we look at the equilibrium. What is happening to equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity? How did they change? how much did they change? We need to be able to answer this. So we have to keep these questions in mind. We know where the event is affecting, is it demand or supply? Then we need to also look at whether it's causing an increase or a decrease, and then its effect on the equilibrium point. So let's take one example: effect of changes in demand. What is the event? A new study says that tap water is unsafe. We can either drink tap water or drink bottled water. So we want to look at the effect of this event on the prices for bottled water. So the first question we ask is this event going to affect demand or is it going to affect supply? It will affect demand, right? Now they are telling us that tap water is unsafe. So we'll stop drinking tap water. They will come and what? Buy more bottled water. So in the market for bottled water, there's going to be changes in demand. It is not affecting the supply for bottled water. It's affecting what? The demand. So that's the first question. Then the second question, is it a decrease or an increase? Now, if we are not drinking tap water, we have to drink more bottled water. So there will be an increase in demand. That will cause the curve to shift rightward. It will shift to the right. Then our last question, how is it affecting the price? Always for the third question, let's use diagrams. If don't do anything, if you use the diagrams, it becomes very, very easy. So let's use a diagram and see. Assuming this is the initial equilibrium for bottled water. Now the event has caused demand to increase. So it shifts to the right side. Are we together? It has shifted to the right side. So what's going to happen here? This is the new equilibrium, right? Now, supply is constant. We are demanding more. What's going to happen to price? Price will go up because there will be a shortage, right? That's the reason why price is going up. We are demanding more than what they are producing now. It's causing a shortage. Price will go up. So this is the new price. The new equilibrium price is going to what? It's going to go up. And then when price goes up, what happens to supply? Supply will increase. We'll have an increase in quantity supplied. So this is our new equilibrium point. And what is the effect? There's an increase in equilibrium price. There's an increase in equilibrium quantity. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at another event. A new 0-calorie sports drink is invented. So there's this sports drink that we can even drink instead of the bottled water. So when you go to the bottled water market, what happens? First question, what does it affect? Is it demand or supply? It's affecting demand. Now there's going to be a reduction in the demand for the bottled water because the sports drink is a substitute. So demand is going to affect the demand. The second question, how does it affect the demand? It will cause a decrease in demand for bottled water. So the bottled water curve, the demand curve for the bottled water will shift to the left. Okay. When it happens like that, what is the effect on price and quantity? Let's use a diagram. So remember our initial equilibrium. Now there's a decrease in demand, so the demand curve shifts to the left. Now, if there's a decrease in demand, it's going to cause a surplus. You understand? It will cause a surplus. Now we are not buying as we were initially buying, so there will still be excess in the market. Demand curves shift to the left. If there's a surplus, what happens to price? Price will fall, right? Price falls. Okay. So when price falls, what will happen to quantity supplied? Quantities supplied will also fall. Have a decrease in quantity supplied. So this will be the new equilibrium, where the new demand curve meets the initial supply curve. So price falls, and then quantity also falls. Are we together?
Yes.
So what we can see here is that whenever there's a change in demand, both the price and then the quantity will move in the same direction as to the change in demand. So here, because of a decrease in demand, there's a decrease in price, there's a decrease in quantity. And then when there was an increase in demand, there was an increase in price, there was an increase in what? In quantity, in the equilibrium quantity as well. So that is what happens when supply is constant and then demand changes. Okay, and demand changes. So when supply changes, it doesn't affect the the supply curve, okay? But then there will be a change in quantity supply, change in equilibrium price, and then change in equilibrium quantity. What about effects of changes in supply? Let's look at the event. European water bottlers buy springs and open plants in what? In the United States. What is going to happen now is like they've put up a new factory there. So they'll produce more bottled water. So that is going to affect what? The supply. It affects the supply. The supply of bottled water will change. How does it affect it? Question 2. It will increase, right? Supply will
Yes.
So the supply curve will shift to the right. So let's look at what happens to equilibrium price and quantity. Now, our initial equilibrium. So at this point, now there's an increase in supply. That will cause a surplus, right? It will cause a surplus. So price falls, equilibrium price will fall and come to 0.75. When price falls, what happens to quantity demanded? It increases. So quantity demanded will increase from 10 to what? 11. So this is the new equilibrium point. Price falls, quantity what? Increases. Are we together? So you see what is happening here. With an increase in supply, price is changing in a different direction. Supply increase, price fall, but then the quantity will move in the same direction. Okay, so this is one. Let's look at the case where supply decreases. Now there's drought in the United States and it has dried up some of the springs. So production will fall. Production of bottled water will fall. So it affects the supply and then it will cause a decrease in supply. So the curve will shift to the left. Let's look at what happens using the diagram. Now, when supply falls, holding demand constant, we have a shortage. A shortage. We are buying, we are not getting. So a shortage. So price will increase, right? Price increases. And then with demand, whenever price increases, what do we do? There's a reduction in quantity demanded. So the quantity falls from 10 to what? 9. So here, supply increase and then price increase, but then quantity decrease. Okay. So those are the effects of changes in demand holding supply constant and then changes in supply holding demand constant. The last one is changes in both demand and supply. When we have changes in both demand and supply, always just use the diagram to know the effect of price and equilibrium quantity. So assuming we have two events, okay, the two events, this one you need to know which curve the event is actually affecting. Then is it going for demand or supply? How is it affecting? Is it an increase? Is it a decrease? You know it. Then you draw the diagrams, then we are able to actually see its effect. Now, this first diagram is talking about both an increase in demand and an increase in supply. Okay, an increase in demand and an increase in supply. So here, demand curve has shifted to the right, supply curve has also was shifted to the right. Now, if you look at this carefully, okay, if you look at this carefully, definitely for quantity will increase. But price, it will be ambiguous. It will depend on the effect. Okay, it will depend on the magnitude of change for both what? Demand and then supply. Now, if you look at what we have done here, there's no change in price at all. Can you see that? There's no change in price, but then there's an increase in quantity. What if demand increased up to this point? This would have been the new equilibrium price. And this one, we would get an increase, right? What if the increase in demand was just here? This would have caused an increase in what? A decrease in price. Or let's even talk about supply. What if the increase in supply was just up to this point? That would have caused an increase in price. Okay. Or what if the increase in supply was up to this point? It would have caused a decrease in price. So for the price, the effect of demand and supply all increasing at the same time, it's ambiguous. Price, we don't know what is going to happen to price. But then the quantity, we are very certain that definitely the quantity will increase. Are we together?
Yes.